The victim and the food safety team. Mystery poisoning outbreak in review. Jen Bickerton was working in the food industry as the Director of Education for a dietary supplement company when she became seriously ill after eating Daily Harvest French lentil and leek crumbles in 2022. Reminder, the Daily Harvest outbreak was caused by a mystery agent with no pathogens, pesticides or mycotoxins in the products. Hundreds of consumers experienced severe symptoms. The US FDA never publicly identified a definitive cause for the illnesses and handed the incident from the outbreak investigation team to another unnamed team in October 2022. Ms. Bickerton suffered digestive symptoms that lasted for days, including horrible heartburn, abdominal pain, extreme fatigue, weakness, body aches, fever, dark urine, and intense itching. She thought she was dying and visited the emergency room. 2 weeks after she became sick, she got an email from the brand owner of the crumbles, Daily Harvest, telling her to throw out the product and offering a $10 credit for each bag she had purchased. At last count, 470 people were affected, many of them requiring gallbladder surgery or liver biopsies. What went wrong? The working theory to explain the outbreak is that a naturally occurring chemical in one of the ingredients caused the adverse reactions, and these were possibly for individuals with specific genetic predispositions. The food product had been launched just before the illnesses began in April 2022, and it contained a new ingredient. The ingredient was tara flower from the seed pods of the South American tara tree, Tara spinosa. The chemical is an amino acid, bichiane. Tara flower had not been used in foods in the USA before, and Daily Harvest relied on the assurance of its supplier that it was widely eaten in Peru and was generally recognised as safe. And you can read more about that in issue 92 from June last year. What happened next? Daily Harvest was accused of acting in poor faith after reports of illnesses began to surface. Victims alleged that the company deleted social media comments in which people complained of symptoms instead of investigating, promised to pay medical bills but reneged on those promises, and forced consumers to sign arbitration agreements preventing them from taking legal action. Daily Harvest and its suppliers are being sued by more than 300 consumers, and damages could exceed $75 million. The company's revenue dropped by 33% in the year following the outbreak, according to Fast Company, though these figures are disputed by Daily Harvest. 2 rounds of layoffs followed the outbreak and the ensuing media storm. The food safety team. A media report from 2023 by Fast Company claims that the food safety assessment of tara flour was conducted by a man called Ricky Silva. He had joined Daily Harvest in 2018, having worked at Vita Coco and PepsiCo, and was Chief Supply Chain Officer in 2022. Silva told Fast Company that Daily Harvest followed internal safety checks to evaluate the flour before using it. These checks included checking for allergens, seeing whether the supplier's facility was FDA registered, checking for risks of chemicals or foreign bodies, and checking to see if the product was legally considered to be generally recognised as safe, or GRAS. Daily Harvest supplier Smirks confirmed that tara flour was GRAS, said Silva. The supplier shared with us documentation and positioned tara flour as generally recognised as safe, he said. Daily Harvest is suing the company that supplied the tara flour and its supplier in Peru. In his interview with Fast Company about the incident, Silva said that tara pods were consumed as part of the staple diet in Peru, and that any health effects in North American consumers were due to genetic predispositions. This was countered by another Fast Company interviewee, Marciel Maffini, a food policy and food safety expert, who explained they couldn't find any evidence that tara flour was a staple food in Peru. Daily Harvest has changed its food safety assessment process for new ingredients and now pays more attention to the history of usage instead of relying on supplier assurances. What happens to food safety team members when things go wrong? In the USA, a major disincentive for food companies to produce unsafe food is the threat of civil litigation from consumers and customers. That is, the threat of being sued. However, companies and their employees are sometimes prosecuted for their roles in food poisoning outbreaks. For example, the quality assurance manager at Peanut Corporation of America was sentenced to 5 years in jail for her role in the 2008-2009 salmonella outbreak, which has been described as one of the most massive and lethal foodborne contamination events in US history. Peanut Corporation of America shut down after their salmonella outbreak, but Daily Harvest has continued to trade, even launching new products since the poisonings. Order value per customer is up, and a deal with a national grocery store chain is apparently imminent. As for Ricky Silva, his career doesn't seem to have suffered. In fact, he's been promoted and is now CEO of the company, according to his LinkedIn profile. The victims. Almost 2 years after eating the tainted Daily Harvest crumbles, Ms. Bickerton still experiences abdominal pains that she worries are a sign of long-term liver damage. Other consumers report ongoing food anxiety after being sickened in the outbreak. Takeaways. This incident is a potent reminder of just how reliant consumers are on food manufacturers to keep them safe. Food manufacturers who can't or don't want to make safe food can and do injure, sicken, and kill the people who eat their wares. It's also a potent lesson for food company executives about how not to handle complaints and a reminder to invest in top quality technical resources. And by that, I mean expert food scientists. Those who don't are putting their consumers in danger and their brands at risk. In short, 470 people were harmed after eating a new food product that contained a new ingredient. Scientists worked to find a probable cause for the illnesses, while the key regulatory agency offered no definite cause. The food company initially suffered financial setbacks and is involved in legal action with its customers and suppliers. However, it's still trading and has since launched new products. An employee linked to the food safety risk assessment of the possibly poisonous ingredient has been promoted to company CEO. Victims continue to suffer long-term effects, including pain and food anxiety. And the main sources for this story are a story written by Ms. Bickerton herself called Delicious But Poisonous, an industry insider becomes a food poisoning victim, and that's definitely worth a read. That was published in Food Quality Assurance Mag. And the Fast Company story about the Daily Harvest outbreak. And if you liked this post, please share it. More shares help to grow our community of global food safety champions.